Schumacher, and I want to be sure I understand it as I evaluate your testimony. On June 8, 2020, you tweeted, I'm going to quote, "The war on drugs was intentionally created to incarcerate black people en masse," end quote. The war on drugs, you said, was intentionally created to incarcerate black people en masse. Who intentionally created the war on drugs to put black people in jail? Who were you talking about?
I don't remember typing that.
Okay, did you just see that? Because what you just watched is one of the most telling exchanges I have seen in a long time coming out of a U.S. Senate hearing. And I have thoughts. A lot of them. Before I get into everything, I just want to say I am not here to be mean to anybody. But I am here to be honest. And what you just saw is exactly why a lot of people have lost trust in how policy gets made in this country. We just watched a senator sit across from a witness who was invited to advise lawmakers on legislation that could cost American taxpayers trillions of dollars, and that witness could not answer basic questions. Not complicated ones. Basic ones. What is carbon dioxide? How much will this cost? How much will temperatures actually drop if we do all of this? The answer to every single one of those was essentially, I don't know. Look, I respect athletes. I genuinely do. But being a great skier does not make you qualified to walk into the United States Senate and tell lawmakers how to restructure the entire American energy economy. Senator John Kennedy saw that, and he handled it the way only Kennedy can. We're about to watch the full video right now, and I will break down every moment after. Trust me, it only gets more interesting. If you are new here, hit subscribe and turn on notifications because this is exactly the kind of content we cover on this channel. Real conversations, real accountability, no spin. Let's watch.
Senator Kennedy.
Thank you. Thank you,
Of course.
Mr. Chairman and Mr. Vice Chairman. Mr. Schumacher, welcome. You were, who invited you here today?
I came with Protect Our Winters.
Right. But you're here on behalf of the Democrats or the Republicans?
I'm here on behalf of the outdoor enthusiasts around America.
Okay. You were contacted by Senator Whitehouse's staff?
I personally came with Protect Our Winters, so I don't know how that went exactly.
What is carbon dioxide?
I went to high school, but that's carbon dioxide is a gas.
Okay.
I'm not a professional to talk about carbon dioxide so much, but
Well, you want us to abolish it, right?
no, there's always going to be carbon dioxide.
Right. So what is it you want us to do? Let me back up because I want to. I mean, you're here as an expert. Tell me more about what carbon dioxide is.
I'm here as an expert cross-country skier who sees the changes in my winters and the landscape that I live in Alaska. And so carbon dioxide is what I see it as is, it's a gas that exists in our atmosphere. And
What, is it the major part of our atmosphere? Or?
it's a huge part of our atmosphere, yes.
It's actually a very small part of our atmosphere.
Well, okay. But, yeah, I don't know. What are you asking specifically?
Well, you say we need to reduce carbon dioxide emissions. I'd like to know first if you know what it is. You want us to abolish fossil fuels?
I never said that.
You never have said that?
No.
Okay. What do you think we ought to do with fossil fuels?
What will we do with fossil fuels?
Yeah. Should we make any changes?
I would like to see a decrease in the use of fossil fuels. I think there's a possibility to use more electric generation.
Okay. Over what period of time? 10 years, 50 years, 100 years?
That's not, I would like to see it come as fast as possible while continuing.
How fast?
Sorry?
How fast?
I don't have a
You
great
don't
answer
know?
for that, no.
Okay. You just think, well, how much will it cost for us to become carbon neutral in the United States by 2050?
I'm not a professional on that. I don't have an answer.
You don't have any idea?
No,
You just think we ought to spend the money?
I'm not an economist.
Yeah, but it's going to cost money. You realize that?
Yeah, but we've also talked about the trade-off of what the cost of climate change as emergencies will cost in the future also. So
Right. But it's going to cost trillions of dollars to become carbon neutral by 2050, right?
I do not know.
You don't know. You just think we ought to do it.
I don't have a great answer for you, but I think
Okay.
I would. Like
If
to
we
see zero
spent,
carbon
if we spent those trillions of dollars and became carbon neutral by 2050 in the United States, which you advocate, how much will it reduce world temperatures?
I don't have an answer for that.
You don't know?
No.
You just think we ought to spend the money and then see what happens?
I think as an athlete, I think if we spend that money and invest in our future, hopefully those temperatures stop rising and maybe the snow at least stabilizes where it is for me. But yeah, I don't think anyone knows for sure. I don't know anyway.
Well, when my colleagues invite witnesses to come to us to tell us, advise us on passing legislation, I always check out the background of our witnesses because I like to know who I'm talking to. I checked yours out, Mr. Schumacher, and I want to be sure I understand it as I evaluate your testimony. On June 8, 2020, you tweeted, I'm going to quote, "The war on drugs was intentionally created to incarcerate black people en masse," end quote. The war on drugs, you said, was intentionally created to incarcerate black people en masse. Who intentionally created the war on drugs to put black people in jail? Who were you talking about?
I don't remember typing that.
You don't?
No.
It's on your Twitter feed.
Maybe a retweet. I don't know. I haven't used that in a while.
Well,
Also,
even
it
if
doesn't
it's a
seem like
retweet, it shows your support, right?
Maybe, yeah. But it's not the topic of this conversation. I think.
Right. But it has to do with, you're here giving us advice, and I just kind of like to know a little bit more about your point
Yeah,
of view.
I'm here as an athlete giving you my story and what I've seen in my field.
On August 27th of 2020, you tweeted this, quote, I'm going to quote, "Police are paid with taxpayer dollars. If they are not answerable to us, we can demand new service, and that's what this is. Abolish the police in favor of that new service," end quote. You think we ought to abolish the police, do you?
Again, not the topic I'm here to talk about today.
I know, but you tweeted it. Do you think we ought to abolish the police?
That's not what I'm here to talk about.
Should we do that before or after we get rid of fossil fuels?
I'm not going to address that. That's,
You don't want to address it? Okay. Let me ask you about one more of your tweets. On August 26, 2020, you tweeted, there's a picture. I'm not going to describe the picture, but you said, quote, your words, not mine. It's on your Twitter feed. Quote, "This is what systemic racism looks like. The Los Angeles Police Department is literally policing only the Black Lives Matter side," end quote. What do you mean by that?
This is still off topic.
No, it's not. You're here as an expert telling us, advising us, and I'm asking you about your background.
I'm here as an athlete to talk about the effects of climate change on my sport.
Okay, let's go back. Well, I'm almost out of
Senator,
time.
you're well out of time, and we have other senators waiting, so please
Okay.
wrap up when you have a moment.
All right. Thank you all for your testimony.
All right, we are back. And watching the full thing made it even clearer what was happening in that room. Senator Kennedy does something that should be completely normal, but somehow feels rare these days. He asks questions and actually expects answers. And watching someone squirm because they cannot provide those answers tells you everything. From the very beginning, Kennedy is calm, not aggressive, not rude, just methodical. He wants to know who this person is, who invited him, and what he actually knows. Fair questions. The kind of questions you, or I would ask if someone knocked on our door and said, "Trust me, spend your life savings, I know what I'm doing." Then comes the carbon dioxide exchange, And this is where it starts to fall apart. This man was brought in to advocate for policies built around reducing carbon dioxide emissions. When Kennedy asks him to explain what CO2 actually is, he calls it a huge part of our atmosphere, which is not correct. CO2 makes up less than 0.5% of Earth's atmosphere. Kennedy catches it and moves on without making a big show of it. The point was already made. Now, I want to be fair here. The witness does say something honest. He says he is not a scientist, he is an athlete sharing what he has personally observed. I actually respect that. But here's the problem. You cannot show up to a Senate hearing as an expert witness advising on trillion-dollar policy and then retreat to, well, I am just an athlete every time a hard question comes up. Pick a lane. Then we get to the cost question. How much will it cost to make the United States carbon neutral by 2050? I don't know. How fast should we transition away from fossil fuels? As fast as possible, but no actual timeline given. And the big one, if America spends trillions of dollars and hits carbon neutrality by 2050, how much will world temperatures actually go down? I don't have an answer for that. Think about that. This is someone advocating for a policy without knowing what it costs, how long it takes, or what the measurable result will be. Kennedy is not being unreasonable by asking these things. He is doing his job. This is what oversight looks like. Now, the tweets. Some people will say Kennedy went off topic, and I hear that. But I disagree. When someone is invited into a legislative chamber to influence policy, their broader judgment is fair game. These are not old forgotten posts. They were made publicly in 2020. Calling for abolishing the police, claiming the war on drugs was designed to mass incarcerate Black people, accusing the LAPD of systemic racism based on a single photo. You can agree or disagree with any of those positions. But if you're going to advise senators on decisions that affect hundreds of millions of people, you should be willing to stand behind what you have said publicly. Refusing to engage with any of it by saying that is not the topic today is not a good look. Kennedy was saying, I want to know who I am listening to. That is completely fair. Here is my overall take. Climate change is a real conversation worth having. The effects on winter sports and ecosystems, also worth discussing. But good policy requires more than feelings and good intentions. It requires data, cost estimates, and honest projections. When a witness cannot provide any of those things, a senator has every right to push back. Kennedy did that. Politely, precisely, and effectively. That is not obstruction. That is not climate denial. That is accountability. And we need a lot more of it. Drop a comment below and let me know what you thought of that exchange. Subscribe and share if you found this useful, and I will see you in the next one.